Well, howdy, y'all, and welcome back to Live at 7:45. Thanks for tuning in. Just a couple of quick notes. Remember that if you haven't been tuning in, this is news. If you have been tuning in, I just want to remind you guys, we are going to 6:45 starting Monday, so we will be live at 6:45 instead of 7:45. And I was originally calling this series "There Is No Self-Destruct Button" because, well, there's no self-destruct button. But I was talking with Deb, and she's been tuning in, and she gives me some great feedback. And I think we're going to change this around. Uh, I think we've got it now. Not technically perfect, because you know what? None of us is technically perfect. Look, I've been in this for a while. You've noticed, you've seen some of the foibles I've had with tech, with the tech and all that. But it doesn't mean that I can't do it, right? So we're going to be talking a lot about technology and lifestyle and how we can take tech and really take it that next step further, and really kind of make it, because technology is part of our lives, but it should represent the best aspects of our lives. It should really help us to do what we want to do instead of just, hey, what it does, oh well, we have that. But okay, I promised yesterday Pete had this fantastic question, and you guys noticed I had a little bit of difficulty getting him on as a guest. So after the show, I called him up. I said, Pete, go ahead, shoot me your question. And he had a fantastic question. His question was, on our smartphones, there are other camera apps. Why don't we just use, what makes it different from the stock app? Pete, fantastic question. I love the question. So there are a lot of apps for the camera, and they all use the same hardware. However, software can make a difference in how your photos turn out. So one of the big differences is you can have things like ProCam. ProCam gives you more professional options in terms of how the lighting works. The stock apps, or the apps that come with the phone to operate the camera, are designed to be as simple as possible. And I mean, they still have a lot of great features built in, but they're meant to be quick and easy and just get the shot. And yes, you can do the focus tricks and all of that, but if you go with something like, there's tons of them, ProCam, VSCO, there's tons of these apps that will run your camera. You can go so much further. Like, you can go, no, I want it to be like, but this is for people who are really into photography. You can change the ISO, you can change the shutter speed, you can change it. Like, you can do these crazy, like, super manual manipulations. And it used to be that you could only shoot RAW. I promise I'll explain what RAW is. You could only shoot RAW with the Pro apps. Now, at least on Apple, the stock app allows you to shoot RAW. Now, what is RAW? RAW is a photo type. The files are huge, absolutely huge. When you figure that your camera takes a JPEG that is usually about 3 to 5 megabytes, if you remember back to our episode on space and storage and measurement of storage, 3.5 to 5 megabytes per photo is not that much. When you talk about RAW, you're talking 25 to 35 megabytes per photo. So that fills up really fast. I mean, really fast. But what RAW does is it takes in all the information in terms of lighting. It shoots the scene, but it does this huge dump of everything, and it just goes, give me everything. Now, for the average photographer, this wouldn't be a good thing. But for event photographers, when you're at a wedding or bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, whatever it is, a birthday party, things like that, you only get, I mean, it's an event, you only get one shot at this, right? And if your shot comes out too dark, it's not so great. So RAW lets you shoot so that you can play with the lighting later. It really does. It just takes all the data in and just goes for it. I mean, in a big way. And you have such incredible manipulation after the fact, which reminds me, tomorrow night, we're going to take, I've been taking some photos, and I'm going to show you a couple that I took yesterday just after shooting. just after doing the live. And I'm going to, tomorrow night, I want to show you a little bit about how we manipulate these photos. And we're going to talk a little bit about storing the photos and some good tips for that. And then what I want to do after the day after, so that would be Monday, is show you what you can do with the photos, some creative ideas that you can take your photos that much further and do some really, really neat stuff. But let's talk today about some more tips. So Pete, those pro apps that you can get for the camera do indeed allow you to do more advanced manipulation of the finer tuned stuff that most people don't care about. Or you can download certain apps that allow, they take photos with filters already applied. I have one photo app, for example, that is really neat, and it makes it look like the camera was back from the 1970s, or like old style film, like the 1960s, 1970s. There's about seven or eight 1970s different filters that make it look like it's old film. Just like there are apps that make your video look like it's from an old 1980s, like the late 80s, when they had the camcorders and you had like the record on it and the battery and everything. There are actually apps that do that in real time. So it's really kind of cool when you start getting into these apps and kind of, hey, I really like that kind of retro look, or I want something a little more, there's one, for example, it takes the live photo or live video, but it converts it in real time to, it looks like pencil sketchy, or it can look like almost coloring book. It's really, it's neat. It's not my favorite one, but it has some neat features. So just so you know that there are, why would I download other apps? They usually provide visual effects or much more advanced control for photographers who are really, really like, they know their settings, they want their settings just so. So Pete, thank you for that awesome question. It is really fantastic. I do love it. Another thing I wanted to mention for you guys who love your cameras and want to go a little more advanced when it comes to video. Yesterday, you might have noticed the camera kept kind of flopping. I'm going to show you why. I was using this. This is called a gimbal. It is a rather strange looking device, and it has the phone on an arm, and the arm has these servos in it. And if I turn it on, you'll notice it's going to turn the phone here. And then I can double tap, right? And I have a whole bunch of features. Now I can control the camera like this, but what this thing does more than anything else is it keeps your video steady while you move. So if I'm moving around a lot, you'll notice that the phone is keeping upright, right? So while you're filming, it's keeping the video very, very steady. So this is a really, really neat thing. Now, the only catch is I was plugging the phone in at the same time, which means the weight was kind of throwing the thing off, and then it would start doing this. So that's why the camera's flopping. But it is a really, really cool way to get super, super smooth video. There are also features on that, for example, to follow you as you move. But you know what? If we're going to be talking about video, let me save that for another day. I just kind of wanted to show you that because it is a cool way to kind of get, if you're doing big group shots or whatever, you can actually have a few controls right on the gimbal that let you, especially if you're using it on the end of a long selfie stick or whatever to take group shots, you can get some really, really nice stable shots. Okay. Sabrina has this fantastic question. So every pros do raw pics all the time. Because filters have most of them strong built-in effects. Right. So do pros always shoot with raw pics? Do pros always shoot in RAW? No, not typically. RAW is kind of reserved for when you have very, very limited time or when you only have one shot, like an event, especially weddings. Wedding photographers shoot in RAW. Why? You don't take any chances, right? I mean, if the technology is going to work for you, make it work for you, right? If you only get if you're pressed for time and you only get like one shot, you only get a chance, make your chance the best you can get. It's kind of just a kind of backup for that. The other thing about filters, you can use retro filters. If that's really your style, go for it. However, I will also mention that most filters can be added on after the fact. And in fact, there's a lot of edits we can do after the fact. I will show that a little bit tomorrow. There are a lot of edits we can do after the fact. So I'm of the school. Now, I learned this from a professional photographer, and we were always very much about the clean image. No filters, no fooling around, and you can do most of the rest in post. It just has to be a really good photo. So that is, you know, if you want to go with that school of thought, great. That's the school of thought I go with. But again, if your style is retro, if your style is grunge, or if you like that filter and want to play it, awesome, go with it. How much is the gadget? I assume you mean the gimbal. The gimbal runs for approximately $200. Actually, it's a little less than $200. But as these are becoming more common, you can find different quality ones and at different prices, usually ranging from about $80 to about $400. The $400 ones are designed for video. They have two-hand grips, and they are like, you could be bouncing on a trampoline and these things will be smooth. I mean, like, you know, Barry White smooth, you know, so really, really super smooth. Awesome question. Love that. Right. The other thing that you may notice is as time goes on, cell phones or smartphones especially start having more cameras. So this is an iPhone 12 Pro Max. You'll notice that there are 3 lenses on the back. They're not just lenses, they are actual cameras. There are 3 cameras on the back and 1 on the front. So there are 4 cameras on this. Actually, technically there's 5. I'll talk about that in a sec. When a phone has more than 1 camera, that is usually a way of being able to get, because we talked about resolution. If you use digital zoom, now that means that you go into your camera and you just, you know, you spread your fingers apart and, oh, hey, look, I can get right in on them. The difference is between optical zoom and digital zoom. When you're digital zooming, there's a catch to digital zooming. You're actually spreading the pixels out, so you're taking a worse photo if you're using digital zoom. You're kind of pre-zooming in, or you know, and you're just blowing up the resolution. You're cutting into your resolution. If you're using optical zoom, it means that you're getting a real zoom in without any loss. So these phones, for example, have the 3. They have 0.5, which is like super wide angle. You've got the regular, and then you've got 2.5 telephoto. Now, when you hear telephoto, think telescope, right? You can see less, but further, right? So telephoto, so telescope photo, right? Otherwise, it's wide angle. Wide angle, you can see a lot, but there tends to be a little bit of distortion. So that's, you know, you'll see that kind of like that fisheye effect where the ends start getting a little bit weird. So that is always good to know, but you can still use them because they are fantastic modes. And actually, you know what? Let me show you some example of this. I am going to pop this up. Here is a photo I took yesterday right after shooting. Now, this is an example of what you kind of don't want to do. Just because you notice that the sun is centered. So the good version of this is just to show the centered. If I go to that, you'll notice that I have moved the sun down into my lower, my 1/3, my lower 1/3, and it really kind of brings the scene out. There's that beautiful negative space. It really kind of gives the context with the trees and so on. And I think, there we go, that one's okay. Now, then there's this one. This is the almost same shot, but with the ultra wide angle. So you notice that it's that huge, kind of takes in like almost bubbled out, right? But I'm still focusing to the 1/3. And then I think, yeah, there is the regular, right? So that is the regular shot. So just to kind of show you guys what these things look like when we switch the lenses out, or when we switch from one camera to another, it really does kind of make a huge difference in terms of that. Actually, there's another photo I'd like to show you. Again, taken just after I shot, just after I did the episode on Thursday night. So I'm gonna come into this. This is in Verdun. So that is across the river. And I think I got some really, really nice lighting on the building with that beautiful golden sunlight. This is referred to as golden hour. It's a very, very popular time to go and take photos because of that beautiful yellow golden light, which it's not the reason I'm filming now, but it's definitely a nice touch. So just to kind of show you guys that. Yeah. So there is all of that. You will notice, by the way, more and more there are some fantastic gadgets out there in terms of being able to have your phone track you and move around. When you move around and do stuff like this, especially for those of you who are into social media. I tend to be a little more traditional in terms of setting a fixed angle. I'm open to change. I'm working on that. But this is kind of fun when you get into social media and that you can actually use some of these. I encourage you to read the reviews and think about your use of it. I'm not saying anything against them. I say go for it. But I will say, do your research really, really well. Make sure it's super versatile, because there are sometimes little design. Those must be expensive. You know what's funny? Sabrina brings up a fantastic point. She goes, well, those must be expensive. Because they're so popular, and because of things like Kickstarter and GoFundMe and Kickstarter and what's the other big one? Indiegogo. Because of these things are becoming less and less expensive. The components are becoming less and less expensive. These things are selling for far, far less than you'd ever have thought. Once upon a time, drones used to be upwards of about $7,000 or $8,000. You can now buy a very decent drone for about 700, $600-700, and I'm talking a really good one with a really good range, usually about a kilometer range. That's impressive when you start thinking about how much, from several thousand to several hundred, the popularity of it brought the price down so much because there were such innovations, and they figured out what they didn't need and what they did need and how to really optimize the build as it went on. So that's something that's really cool to kind of get into. If you guys want me to talk about drones at some point, if this is something that would be useful to you guys, I mean, it's a fairly specific topic, but if you guys want me to talk about it, let me know in the comments. Love that you guys are getting interactive with the questions. Thank you. I love all of that. So do you guys have any more questions while I'm wrapping this up? I'm loving this. This is super cool. If it happens to be that the feed is not that I don't happen to be live at that particular moment, I'm putting my email up on the screen, so you could email me questions, or by all means on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, go ahead, hit me in the comments, hit me on Facebook Messenger. I'm on it like white on rice. I love the questions, and I really, really want to get to those questions. I'm absolutely loving that. I want to be able to help you get the best photos you can. You know what? If any of these tips help you take a better photo or do something really cool, please send it to me. Email it to me. Ship it to me via Facebook. Post it on the page I'm going to change it from "there is no self-destruct" button to "there is a page for that." I'm going to call it "not technically perfect." Guys, go ahead, post a photo that you're really proud of, that you use some of these techniques on, and let's show it off and have some fun with that. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. It's been awesome. I'm having. I hope you guys are finding the content getting better. I'm trying to improve it all the time. If you guys have suggestions for things you'd like to see, again, comments, hit me up. I love it. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys tomorrow at 7:45, and we will go live at 6:45 on Monday with Not Technically Perfect. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great evening.